Sammy Cosentino from Rogers Sportsnet. He's all over everything NHL and CHL. How you doing, Sammy? Looks like you're working today, bud. Are you on the air tonight?
No, not on tonight. Doing a lot of the legwork. Got a pretty busy week here coming up, Roddy. So good to see you. And then Double D, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you getting all dressed up for us today, Sammy. Always love it. Hey, you saw both those goals. I got to say, I think the Tkachuk goal was more impressive because Ron Duguay was with us last hour and said the Rangers just stood there and watched McDavid. Tkachuk had to work a little more. What do you think?
Ooh, I think I still like the McDavid better. I mean, it's four guys, whether they're standing there watching or not, they all know it's not their job. And if you look at two of them, I think both of them had broken ankles. So I got to give it to Connor there. That's impressive stuff and stuff that I was lucky to see fairly regularly back when he was in Erie with the Otters.
I was just going to say there's an Erie bias. It's Erie. Hey, Sammy, talk about your role, if you don't mind. What's keeping you busy these days? We're seeing on television NHL pregame, intermission stuff. You do much junior stuff. What's happening in the world of Sammy Cosentino these days?
Well, it's interesting, Roddy. My role has changed significantly over at Sportsnet. I mean, the junior, the CHL rights are no longer with us. So for the first time, basically in 15 years, I'm not doing junior games for Sportsnet, but both Sportsnet and the CBC were nice enough to work together to allow me to do a package of games that were on Saturdays. My run there has come to an end. I'm out to Winnipeg to do a game Saturday night. So, it's doing a lot of the Hockey Central pre-games, working with Carolyn Cameron and David Amber, Justin Bourne, Anthony Stewart, a whole host of others, Mike Fuda. So, yeah, it's changed quite a bit for me. It's a lot different than what I'm used to. It's kind of used to being on that road one day a week, trying to get out to as many games as possible in the meantime, and then working on the draft throughout the year. So I'm still doing the draft stuff, still trying to get out to as many games as possible, but it's a little bit more challenging with the way our schedule is set up and some of the responsibilities I have. But definitely embracing the new challenges, that's for sure.
Sammy, good for you, by the way, and I think that you've always got to do that draft stuff because it's so good. I mean, you are Canada's Mel Kiper of hockey, as far as I'm concerned. And I had a parent. I don't want to say of which team, but he's in Vancouver, and he said, you guys need to do more hockey, and you need to do more OHL and Q. And I said, hey, I get it, man, but we're in Western Canada because there's such an appetite for the game out there. So tell me, please, what's the quality of play like in the O and the Q this year after what they've been through the last couple of years? How's it going?
Well, the Ontario Hockey League is just sort of rounding into form there, and myself included, and a lot of the scouts I've talked to say you got to give it 15 or 20 games. I mean, you're looking basically at a year and a half of lost development, especially for the younger players in the league who, minor hockey was completely shut down. Some of the older players were able to find places or skates elsewhere. So, it's just starting to round into form right now. We're starting to see some of the regular teams, the Londons, the Sault Ste. Marie's, Ottawa, kind of hang out at the top of the table as we're used to seeing here in Ontario. But the quality of play, I've been to a few games, seen a lot of different lead changes, seen a lot of different mistakes. The defensive side of the game, I think, is what lacks most because of the layoff and the lack of that year and a half worth of development. But it's coming. And in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, they sort of picked up where they left off. They were able to kind of plow through a season last year. It wasn't perfect, but they were, in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 games for most teams. So they were still able to get something done, albeit in entirely different circumstances. But at least the players were able to get out on the ice and continue along that developmental trail. So it's been a little bit better out there. OHL is just starting to round into form. And, the WHL, I think, is kind of the big benefactor in the approach they took last year, just 24 games, but really decided to go super young in the league and allow some of the 04s and 05s to play and heavier weighted towards some of the 03s as well. So I think that's helped speed the development along and what we're seeing in the Western League this year.
Well, I think interviews like this, and you do a great job on your Instagram and stuff, interviewing the process. How about Cole Sillinger, by the way? Now that I think about it, I watched your Instagram live with Cole. I didn't see this coming, Sammy. Did you?
Nor did I. But you know what? I think when you're from that family, it's hyper competitive. I mean, from the dinner table to the golf course to the workouts to the ice,
playing cards.
It's hyper competitive for those guys. And so I don't think they allowed Cole really any time off. after not being able to participate in the under 18s, I don't think they allowed him time off. And he must have had a really, really good summer. And it's funny because every time you look around, Columbus is sort of wanting to get rid of him, but they can't. He's been that good, that responsible. The minute's good. So, yeah, really, really impressed with that young man. As I, spent a bit of time with Mike going back to 2018 when the Memorial Cup was there. And, I've kind of followed Cole pretty closely into the USHL. And, I know Willie Desjardins was probably freaking out over there, hoping he'd get Cole back, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So, you're really, really happy for the young man. But when you come from that background that's hyper competitive, you come from a background, you're not wowed by what the NHL has to offer. And I couldn't be happier for the kid. Like, awesome to see his smile, the celebration on that first goal. Really, really good stuff.
It seems a little ahead of schedule. We knew that he had it in him, but at 18, what he's doing is just insane. And by the way, I'm looking at the mock drafts here. Shane Wright, number 1 to go. Matthew Savoy, number 2. You can see Connor Geeky in there. Like, out here, Sammy, and I can't wait for you to get out to Winnipeg on Saturday. You're going to see this. The stars of the Western League are the young guys. You're hearing the names, right? Connor Bedard, Braden Yager, all those guys. Is that the case in the O and the Q too, or are the stars the older guys?
Well, it's funny, Roddy. Talking to some scouts the other day, and I do like this 04 draft, but I think everyone is super pumped for the 05 group. And part of it, we saw Connor Bedard and maybe thought he was the Lone Ranger. And then we got to the under 18s, and all of a sudden, Matvei Mishkov of Russia is the guy. Crazy kind of goals, hat tricks, left, right, and center, tied for the tournament lead with points. And then you go to the Helinka Greb, and Dalibor Dvorsky, Slovakian kid, is lighting it up. And some people are saying, oh my gosh, Bedard isn't just a shoo-in to be the first overall pick in the 2023 draft. And then you look at a guy like Braden Yager, who, just up the road from you, and so many good things being said about that young man. And it's really spread across, right across the world, if you will. I think the 05 group is deeper and a little more high end than what we're seeing with the 04. So super pumped about that, of course, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself and, not forget about and give to that 04 group led by Shane Wright.
Absolutely, but it's just a scout the other day said that Yager's another Nathan McKinnon. Like, that's what they're saying now.
I heard the same thing.
Right. So think about that. And I just saw him Friday night, or I guess it was a week ago Friday now. I'm getting old, Sam. But the Warriors beat Medicine Hat in Moose Jaw in overtime, and the Tigers could have used Cole Sillinger that night. So you're right about the hole in that lineup with Cole, but it is what it is. Sam, we'll leave it there. It's always good to chat hockey with you. Safe travels, my friend, and I hope we can do it again here through the winter. Yeah,
anytime. Thanks a lot, Roddy. Take care.
The great Sam Cosentino from Rogers Sportsnet joining us from the T-Dot. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.